Hi everyone, this is Venkat and welcome to Aztec channel. Today is the day 3 of Unix and Linux fundamentals and we are going to talk about the virtualization and different virtualization softwares that are available in the market. So without wasting of our time, let's get started. So what do you expect from day 3, right? So we're going to talk about what is virtualization because you need to understand uh, what is the virtualization and where do we use it, how do we use it in real time and in general, right? And understand the different virtual softwares. So in the market there are many, but I can talk about minimum four that are going to be really very helpful when you are dealing with the virtualization softwares. And the third one is differences between them, right? As I said, we have a four or top virtualization software, but there are some here and there some differences that you need to understand before you use them, right? So before that, what is virtualization, right? So virtualization is a technology, right, that allow the creation of virtual computing resources such as operating systems and storage devices or network resources. So in a short, let's say your requirement is to run a um, multiple systems or multiple gust OSs you need to run in our physical system. So then where virtualization options or software comes into the picture. So virtualization is nothing but to create a multiple virtual machines on the single physical uh, system by sharing physical server or systems devices such as a storage and network, any other related components. So in general, it enables the efficient to use allocation of physical resources by abstracting them from the underlying hardware. So when I say efficient use means, let's say you have a mission, right? Maybe your laptop and whatever, but hardly you are using in a day or while you are working with some gaming program or any other programs. Hardly you are using uh, out of 4 GB of memory, you might be using just 2 GB. So what about other 2 GB? That is something free. It is unallocated, right? So that is I mean that is system is not using, that is just keeping aside. The same way, let's say hard disk. So you might be having a 500 GB of disk, and on top of that you might be using a 400 or 300 GB. So remaining space is free. So since it is your laptop or desktop, so you're doing like that. So what if you do the same thing on your physical server? So physical server in real time, that might be having a different storage structure, different CPU structure and memory and all. So example, maybe one server with 16 CPUs with a 1 TB disk or more than 1 TB disk. It's all depends on the server to server and the one we are running on the application type and its requirement. So the virtualization eliminate all these issues. When I say issues, it is allocate the efficient space, means there is no wastage of your CPU or memory or disk allocations. So you can think of that, you can use your disk or CPU and memory, everything as you need. So there is no wastages while you deploying your applications and all. It means you can use efficient resources from the your underlying physical um, system. So when I say a virtualization, it's simple involved. We call it as a creation of virtual system. So why do we need this virtual system, right? So in general, if you are a developer or you are just a system administrator, you want to play around here and there with some X application or you want to do some POC kind of stuff. So then what do you need? You must need your dedicated system, right? So you cannot do the everything on single missions because there are different scenarios. So let me take an example like that. Let's say you need to test one application in Ubuntu and one application on Windows. So, but you have only one PC, like maybe your computer or your laptop, whatever. So, how can you do these two application testing with a single PC? So, that's not possible, right? In general, it's not possible. But you need to be rely on some softwares. The software is nothing but here virtualizations. So, the virtualization softwares are will give you a best way to do that kind of scenarios. I mean, you can perform your that kind of scenarios whenever it's required. So in simple, it is allowing you to create a multiple virtual machines on top of your physical system. Okay, so in general, this is something as a end user you are trying to use the software and installing that in your laptop or desktop, and you are I mean you need to play around here and there. But when it comes to the server edition, like when you are dealing with the real-time servers, some of this software solution that I am going to talk, that is something we are not using for real world use case. So this virtualization software that I am going to cover in next few minutes, those are only for development purpose. Means you are the owner or you are the user and you want to test something in our Linux machine or Windows machine, and you need to launch it and you need to play around it. But in real time, the same way we have the same virtualization softwares are there, but that's something comes under the advanced. Like advanced, when I say advanced, we have a VMware virtualizations. That is the very popular virtualization software or hypervisor that is available in the market. So when you are installing any critical workloads for the server, then we need to go with the VMware virtualization software. But let's say if you are practicing something or you want to do some kind of POCs, and then this can be done in your laptop or in your PC. So sometimes this POC we can also directly done in our real-time environment also, but maybe your projects or your project teams, whoever are managing that particular VMware, they need to create a virtual environment for your use case, then you need to play around there. But the thing is, when you go with a real world use case like VMware virtualization, you need to purchase the license and you need to work with them. I mean, VMware to host and all. So the hosting concept and managing concept is something a very advanced stuff. But for now, as a basic thing, that is not required. So I'm giving some differences between the actual virtualization software that runs on your laptop and what is the actual software that's on real time. So what you need to understand here is that whatever we are using in your laptop or desktop, that's not a 100% or 100% virtualization. That's something like it's give the um, same features what we have in the VMware, but not all. Okay, so that is the reason whatever you install in our laptop or desktop, those are something for your use case only. That is not meant for a production workload or production workload deployment and all. This is something you just need to play around here and there use case only. But if it is a real time, always the companies are who are using, they always using or they are always relying on the VMware virtualization. Okay, so if somebody asks you what is virtualization, it's nothing but it's a creation of virtual systems on top of the one of the physical system by using the resources of it. So when I say resources, it can be a CPU, memory and disk, right? So the virtualization actually begins in 1916, so 1960s, right? So before that there is no virtualization concept and all. So why it is become popular? Because of that, uh, we can go whenever we need, simply go and launch our testing environment. We can do our testing and all, and we can terminate it. So that's the reason of behind this. The virtualization is so become popular. Not only that, there are lot other options also is there, but mainly whenever you need, you can simply go and launch and play around it, and you can terminate when your work is done. So initially, if you see this is the one of the IBM hardware or IBM server where the softwares were installed. I mean, the virtualization software concept is introduced in the IBM platform, right? So this is something IBM powered by one of the IBM mainframe computers. Okay, so where the virtualization software first initiated or started the journey of the virtualization. So in the market, we have a different virtualization software, but before we deep dive into that, you need to understand what type of software virtualization we can expect in real world use case. So one is a server virtualization. So when I say server virtualization, a physical server is divided into a multiple virtual servers. So each server, I mean each virtual server operates independently, running its own operating system and applications. So when I say here, right, the virtualization, server virtualization is one of the um top virtualization concept that is still using on the uh, real world use case. So let's say your application is hosted on the on-premises, they might using this virtualization, I mean server virtualization concept in the on-premises. So what if you do the same thing on the cloud? So even the cloud, the providers like maybe Amazon or Azure or whoever like GCP and all these cloud vendors might have their same similar kind of virtualization techniques or technology in their own data centers. So the server virtualization is one of the real world use case where we use or where we deal in the past. Some people now still using because of the legacy application is not supporting on the cloud, or maybe the customer don't want to migrate into the cloud because of some X reasons. So still people are using this virtualization technology or virtualization softwares in on-premises environment. So the best example for server virtualization is that's a VMware product, as I mentioned. VMware vSphere is one of the server, I mean, dedicatedly using for real world applications or critical application that can be run on the ESX software. So even Microsoft also is having its own product called Microsoft Hyper-V, and in the Linux side we have a KVM and Gen. So these are the server side virtualization software that are available in the market. And now we have a desktop virtualization, one of the options. So this is simple, right? So desktop is nothing but you have a Windows server or Windows machine and you want to connect to that. So if it is a Linux, most likely most of the people are using putty as a tool to connect to the Linux server or system, whatever. But if it is a Windows, we need to use RDS. Okay, remote desktop server or service. We can connect to the remote system using the desktop virtualization software concepts. And network virtualization. So this is also something like uh, SDN by the Cisco. So you know the Cisco. Cisco is nothing but it's a networking related components or routers or whatnot. They provide everything that relates to the network related support. So network virtualization is also one of the virtualization software type that is available out there. So while you deal with your infrastructure provisioning on the on premises, then you need to consider the first 3 points. Maybe a server virtualization is required, and you might be required a network virtualization by Cisco or VMware. And the virtual I mean storage virtualization also means, let's say as I mentioned, you need a disk space. So how can you do, I mean how can you access that disk? So there should be some physical storage required. So EMC is the top I mean top storage vendor out there. After that we have a NetApp is also behind the scene. It's using some kind of EMC storage devices and all. So storage virtualization is also is required. And application virtualization. So Citrix application is nothing but it's similar to kind of ODS, but only difference is you will get one Citrix app from where you can connect to your specific app that is running on the on-premises or on the cloud. So that's application of virtualization. The next one is hardware virtualization. So this is the where the crucial part is happening. So hardware is nothing but here the CPU. So you cannot enable or you cannot directly play around with the uh, general or basic CPU. That CPU must require, or the CPU or the system must require or capable to host the hardware virtualization environment. Means Intel Intel and AMD they designed a processor that supports a virtualization technology. So if it is a laptop we need to enable, but these days the laptops or desktop what we are using by default the virtualization technology is enabled by default with the processor implementation now, but sometimes we need to enable according to our requirement. So hardware virtualization is it's fall under your processors, whether that's supporting hardware virtualization or not. The next one is containerization, that is also comes under the virtualization. So here Dockers and Kubernetes comes under the picture. Okay, so we are going to talk about what is Docker and what is Kubernetes in the DevOps tools. Okay, so before we deep dive into the different software that are out available, then I wanted to take a moment to explain actual uh, actual use case, like what if there is no any virtual software, then how you can uh, use your servers or you can play around with the Gust and all. So I already brought some image for reference, right? So if you can see this image, right, in this uh, let me take the pen. Yep. So in this, whatever you see here, this is something like your PC that is running without virtualization software. Let's assume that your PC or laptop is having a disk with a 500 GB. Most of the time we use, I mean, our missions will have a 500 GB, but maybe people are using 1 TB as well for OS installation and are storing some content into it. And memory, so 4 GB, I mean nobody using these days as a 4 GB as a CPU or laptop, because they might use 8 GB minimum, maybe 16 GB. Some people are for gaming use case they might use the 32 GB. It's all depends on their requirement. So here what I'm trying to convey that, right, so this is my simple PC or laptop where I don't have any virtualization software. So I will talk about different virtual software after this, but let's assume that it's some software. So when you deal with your laptop or desktop, you have a only one option that you can install only one OS. I mean, you can install only one OS and you can access that only one time. When I say one time means, let's say this is my PC right now. I have Windows 11 operating system, so I'm using a Windows 11 now. What if I wanted to play around with the Linux operating system? Just think about it. Can I install Linux directly on the machine? No, you cannot install Linux directly, right? So why? If you install Linux, yes, it is possible, but what will happen? Your current operating system need to be erase, I mean delete, and you need to reinstall your Linux. When I say Linux, it can be mostly the people are using a desktop version for is Ubuntu. That's something good. Okay, so in general nobody doing like that because Windows is more user friendly. Like when I say user friendly, you will have a graphical icons and just installing some packages or software. That's so easy. Just double click on the program, next, finish, that's it. But whereas in Unix families like Ubuntu or any other, that's something you need to download software and you need to run CLIs to install those softwares and all. So that's the different story. So in general, with your laptop or desktop, you can run one primary OS. When I say primary, it means you can install or you can play around with only one operating system. That's your primary, means Windows 11 or Windows 10, like that. So as I mentioned before, what if I need to install uh, Linux? When I say Linux, it can be Ubuntu, Oracle Linux, or any other Red Hat Linux, whatever. I need to play around with that as well. Then the virtualization software comes into the picture. So if you see here in the second diagram or this image, what I'm trying to convey here is that my machine, maybe my PC, my laptop is having same configuration like 500 GB and 4 GB, maybe more than 4 GB. And on top of that, I have installed a virtualization software. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But before that, just understand it's some kind of virtualization software that I installed. So on top of that, I'm running a Gust OS. So in this case, Gust can be a Linux, Mac OS, or a Windows. So in the Linux, all the Linux flavors are supported, like Red Hat is supporting, CentOS is supporting, Oracle Linux is supporting, and Ubuntu also is supporting. So on top of that, you are running one app. So app can be any app. It's not for application purpose. Might be you can use it for your some R&D purpose, or you can deploy your some kind of MySQL database, whatever, any purpose you can use it. So that app or whatever program you're running should use some binaries behind the scene. Any application, sorry, any OS comes with the different binaries and libraries to interact your application with the hardware. So that's required. So like this, whatever systems, whatever Gust I require, I can play, I can host and I can play around it with the help of virtualization software. So here there are some limitations when I compare with the this one. This is the actual VMware terminology. I'm talking about virtualization with the VMware, right? So here if you see, here we have a primary OS, which is your Windows. Here virtualization software, it can be a different virtual software I can talk about in a minute. And hypervisor is nothing but VMware related. If you are using a VMware, the VMware software, while you install, the hypervisor layer will be created. So the hypervisor is nothing but it's a virtualization layer where it is interacting with your physical hardware and hosting or sharing the resources to your Gust machines using the hypervisor concept. So when I say hypervisor, this concept is something used for real world cases. Your real world application deployment use case only we are using like this. But let's say, as I mentioned, to do your POCs or to want to play around your softwares like some Mac software that is for only your use cases, or you are developing something, then you can go with the virtual software. So only one more difference is, if you go with hypervisors, you need to have a licenses. You need to purchase, as I mentioned. If you want to use a hypervisor, you need to purchase the license from most popular one is a VMware. So you need to purchase the support or whatever software from the VMware, then you need to use it as a real-time application hosting. But if it is your normal, just for normal use case, and you want to just play with the Linux or Windows, then you can go with the software, free software that are available in the market. I will talk about one of the best one that I am using, and I will show you that as well. So now I hope you got some clarity about the with without software, without virtualization software, and with virtualization software, and with hypervisor. So there is no differences in between the virtualization software and hypervisor. The only difference is um, um, in a hypervisor you will get a lot of flexibilities. When I say flexibilities, you will have all the available options for which to run your application smoothly. So I'm going to give you a detailed information by end of this video. Okay, so I hope you got some idea on this. Now you have some idea about the virtualization software and hypervisors, how you can use it. So let's go back to the software that are available in the market. So first place is occupied by the VirtualBox. So the VirtualBox is a free software that is sponsored or provided by the Oracle. Okay, formally it is by Sun Microsystem, like it is known as a Sun VirtualBox, because Sun is something Sun Microsystems. Then it is developed by the Oracle company. So now it is a free. Okay, even Oracle also giving as a paid version, but that required a licensing and all. But generally, for your play around, like for your normal use case, that you can use it as a free. So you don't need to be worry about the licensing and all. You can freely download from the Oracle site, and you can play around it. So the next software we have is VMware Workstation Player. So this is again it is a free, but it is provided by the VMware company. Okay, so as you know that VMware is having a commercial and non-commercial product. So when I say non-commercial, so the VMware Workstation Player is comes under the uh, non-commercial product, means it is not meant for a production workload deployments and all. It just for you can run your applications locally or in your laptop for test use case. That is not meant for hosting a real world applications and all. So VMware also is having a pro version. Okay, that's called a Workstation Pro. So that's a commercial one. To use this software you need to purchase the license. So I can provide detailed information differences between all these softwares in a minute. So VMware Workstation Pro is one of the license version that you need to purchase it from the VMware. The next one is Windows is supporting hypervisor concept as well. That's called a Microsoft Hypervisor. That is provided by Microsoft company, and it's supported from 2018. Before that there is no hypervisor concept enabled in the Windows machines, right? So whatever operating system that comes today, the hypervisor is pre-installed with it, so you can directly play around with the hypervisor. So there is a command if you want to know your system is hypervisor is enabled or not. So in your machine, in your Windows machine, it can be a 10, I mean Windows 10 or Windows 11 or any other Windows server softwares, where you need to run systeminfo.exe. That will give you an final output like this. So if your system is enabled hypervisor supports, then you will be seeing like this kind of option. I mean it's saying that okay, your VM monitor mode extension is enabled, virtualization is enabled and all. What if this is something not enabled? You cannot use Hyper-V, I mean Microsoft Hyper-V software or inbuilt feature in our Windows machine. But others like VirtualBox or VMware Player and Workstation Pro, all these are something like you need to download the software and you need to install. On top of that, you need to um, host your POC environment or development environment, right? So these are the top four as of today. Maybe there are different virtualization softwares also out there, but I'm using for my testing purpose or my use case and all. I'm preferring that VirtualBox. Okay, so now understand the differences between those softwares. So this is very important before you go and pick virtualization software to host your guest operating system on your machine. You need to understand what is the difference between them. I mean differences between those softwares and all. So here the first point is, let's talk about the um, cost. So when you go into the cost, right, VirtualBox is free, so you don't need to worry. You can freely downloadable from the internet, and VMware Player also is a free downloadable, and VMware Workstation Pro is something you need to get some licenses from the VMware. And the hypervisor, as I mentioned, it is included with the Windows, and you don't need to be installed separately any softwares. And gust support. So when you say gust means what kind of operating systems we can install on top of the gust. So mostly the VirtualBox supports all the OSs that are there in the market. Let's say Linux, from the Linux family, it supports most of the Linux operating systems like Red Hat, Oracle, CentOS, and all. If it is a Windows also. And VMware Player, it's having some limitations. You cannot play around all the OSs. I think Mac is something, it's not possible. You cannot play around with the Mac, but here it is possible with the VirtualBox. And VMware Workstation Pro, since it is a licensed version that supports similar to the VirtualBox. And Windows Hyper-V, there are some limitations, but again it is similar to VirtualBox. But Windows Hypervisor also is supporting most of the Linux and Windows distributions or operating system. And the snapshot, so what do you mean by this snapshot? Snapshot is nothing but, let's say you hosted a mission, and you want to take the final output of that mission. Okay, then you can perform the snapshot. Means whatever, let's say you created one mission and you created one program called my first program, and second day you entered into that guest mission and you created second program called program 2. Then you need to save that configuration for safer side. Let's say if your virtual mission is failure or failed for some X reasons, then you need to restore from some X point, right? That's called a snapshot. Snapshot is nothing but a backup. So that's possible with the virtual box, but not with the virtual player. And since Workstation Pro is a licensed version, always it supports. And the next one, hypervisor, Windows hypervisor, that is also is supportable. And cloning. So there is a small difference between snapshot and cloning. So snapshot is but just nothing but taking one backup of the gust mission. But cloning is you're taking entire mission as a cloning. Clone is nothing but a duplicate copy of entire system. When I say entire system, it's a gust system, not your primary mission or a primary system. You're taking a cloning of your gust system. Okay. So the advantage again, if you lost um, the gust missions for some max reason, you can use it. I mean, you can restore it to the cloning. So that's not supported in VMware Player, and now Workstation supports and Hypervisor also support. Now coming to the networking, so networking is important. So you need to interact with your guest mission, right? Let's say in my mission I hosted Ubuntu, so I need to play around with the Ubuntu from my Windows. So how can I do that? I should be having some communication between the my my primary OS and my guest OS. So here when I say primary, my actual Windows, which is comes with my laptop or desktop, like say Windows 10 or Windows 11, and my guest is something Ubuntu. So I need to connect to that Ubuntu from my Windows PC. So how can I do that? There is a networking. So most of the time we use a bridge network connect to connect from our PC to the guest mission. A NAT, host only, internal, that's something not really not being used. Most of the time we rely on the bridge network. So bridge is the option to connect to your guest from your local primary mission. So when I say here, there are some limitations where in VMware always it supports, and here it supports some internal, external, private, all the options are possible. The encryption is nothing but when you write while you host your guest mission, that should be encrypted or not. If it is encrypted, nobody is going to be crack that guest OS and software or application that is running on the mission. But if it is no encryption, that means maybe if somebody hacks your mission, then they might crack the mission and they might steal the informations. So encryption is nothing but encrypting the your guest missions and its components. But whereas in paid version, it's only a supported whereas in Windows it's pre-installed, you don't need to worry. And remote access, as I said, if you use a Linux machine on Gust, you need to use a PuTTY, but if you use a Windows on Gust machine, you need to use RDP. So that is possible with um, a virtual box. So here VRDP means virtual remote desktop. So while you launch your Gust machine, it will give you some the login screen where you can log in to your Gust machine. But where is in player? No, there is no option. Obviously, workstation is supporting and hypervisor also is supporting. So performance is one of the key aspect of which software you need to choose among these. So obviously you need to look at the performance. So virtual box gives the good performance when compared with others one, but VMware Pro, Workstation Pro is gives the most excellent um, performance because it's a licensed one, right? And few other differences like GUI. So till now we haven't discussed about what is GUI. It's a graphical user interface. So in the fifth day, I'm going to talk about differences between CLI and GUI. For now, ignore it. Okay. So GUI is nothing but in short, you will have a um, better console view. When I say console view, the desktop view, the way we in Windows we are having the icons and all in a good structure, the same way it's called a GUI. So GUI is possible with the virtual box. In all the virtual software it is possible. And CLI, for the CLI, yes, Oracle is designed a nice CLI to interact your virtual box with the CLI, but VMware Player is not having that option. But other two is having that option. Integrated or integration with the cloud. So VirtualBox initially when they launched, right, there is no integration with the cloud, but now VirtualBox by Oracle, since Oracle is having its own cloud called OCI, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So the idea behind is that whatever you deployed in our local machine, like in your CPU, in your mission, in your Gust mission, that mission you can also migrate into OCI. So that's a good feature of VirtualBox, which is powered by the Oracle. So here I might be wrong. Here I mention is no, but nowadays they also support a migration from your Gust from laptop or desktop to your Oracle Cloud. So for that you need a Oracle Cloud account. You need to integrate or you need to establish your laptop to the cloud using the IAM federation and all. So that's something a very advanced thing, but as of moment is not required. And the VMware player is something, no, it is not supporting. Workstation Pro is supporting since it is a VMware. If you want to migrate that to a real world case like VMware, then you can use it. And this is something, no, it's not supporting. And scalability, it's a limited and high. Okay. And management tools, yes, the way you configure, the way you hosting your guest, all this comes under the management tool. So here we have a limited tools, limited, it's having an advanced, and advanced means you can launch, you can edit, you can modify, whatnot, you can do everything. And host supports, it's nothing but Gust support the mission. So most of the time it can be a Windows, it can be a Mac OS, or it can be a Linux, but here it's only Windows Linux, Windows Pro, Windows Enterprise, all this comes under the host operating system. And template creation, so template creation is possible with the virtual box, but not with the player. But other two, template is nothing but it's similar to a creating bare metal information. Like when I say bare metal information, okay, I need to create a one server with a 10 GB memory, sorry, 10 GB disk, or 2 CPUs, or some XYZ operating system. That's called a template. You are creating one sample template so that you can use or you can reuse whenever you want to host your Gust. The finally licensing, as I mentioned, because of this particular thing, most of the people are interested to use the virtual box, and they are using right now. So it's not a licensing version, it's a free, you can use as a free one. when it comes to the workstation, it's a license one. You need to purchase it from the VMware. That's it for today. I hope now you got some clarity about the virtualization and different virtualization software that are available in the market, and the best one among the four virtualization software that we were discussed previously. So if you like this video, kindly subscribe to my channel and share with your friends and colleagues. Okay, you can also follow me on my Facebook, Instagram, and some of the document I might be sharing on my Instagram channel, where you can also get the same information. So that's it for now. Thank you, and thank you all.